Hi, this is China Today 2020, number 6. We are looking at the Square Cabin Hospital. This time we will look at some of the lives inside the hospital as well as the design itself. And the patients comment that when they first arrived in the cabin, there was a bit of doubt, but after a while, everything is fine. And cabin life is no worse than home, and medical staff in the cabin is no worse than your own friends. What we are going to do is look at the cabin hospital built from the building from the left. This is a large conference center, and this is one of the largest square cabin hospital built in Wuhan. The official name is 东方花for Square Cabin Hospital. This is the external view of the hospital. You can see that there are some white tents in front of the building. Actually, there's another type of tents in this brown color, also in front of the building. Probably these are the tents from two different medical team. Here's another look at the tank. Here's the entrance. In the entrance, we see a banner there. The banner says early discovery, early reports, early isolation, and early cure. That's good to you as well as everybody else. Here we have a photo of one of the team who will eventually station in one of these square cabin hospital. This particular one come from Guangdong, Shenzhen. The name itself actually comes from the Chinese translation of lower arts. And this is by converting large gymnasium, convention center, and other places. It is used to centrally isolate and treat patients with mild symptoms and provide free living and medical service. The cabin is equipped with facilities for learning, entertainment, medical treatment, and living assistance. By being completely isolated from outside, that means the patients inside will not spread their disease or virus to their family members or community. At the same time, when they are experiencing some medical difficulties, staffs are there to help them. In case of declining health, they can be transported to a designated hospital in the fastest way possible. So there is a certain kind of security around there. When a people is required to be quarantined, not everybody will abide by the rule. Some of them will wander around and inevitably spreading the virus into the community. By providing a centralized isolation center with medical support, that will reduce the amount of infections from the people's movement. Again, when the medical resources in Wuhan is exhausted, is being overwhelmed by the end of January, then we have the Square Cabin Hospital. I was reporting that there was about 14 square cabin hospitals. It seems that I was wrong. And now the information coming to me is there are 16 of these square cabin hospitals in Wuhan. And they vary in size from several hundreds beds to thousands of beds. So the criteria of admission is that the symptoms must be mild. It can the patients can have independent living ability, no major medical history, and no major history of mental illness, and there's no special requirements for other conditions. The tents they set up outside are used as doctors and nurses' office, on-site command centers, logistics, material support, and various functions. The tanks themselves are the clean zone. That means people in the tank in these tanks will be free of virus. So this is where the support, like the IT support, the diagnosis, the everything is done in the tank. The design is quite simple, not particularly exciting, but um, although it is simple, it still have to fulfill as an infectious control hospital. So there will be designated lines for people flow, for traffic flow, and for logistics. The initial square cabin hospital is allocated 3 days to build, and of course the builders got a tight schedule, and it will be under tremendous pressure if they have to postpone. But eventually, the first few square cabin hospital was postponed by 1 day because the medical team urgently purchased some emergency equipment and then supplemented some of the shortcomings in the hospital. But the overall review is that that day was used very well and the time is variable. In the end, there are 3 halls in this conference center, the Wuhan Living Room Conference Center. It consists of 22,000 square meters, equivalent to 3 standard football fields. So it is a very large space. We will have a bit of schematic showing how they are organized. In addition to the requirements of hospital, they also have strict separation of the 3 zones: the polluted zones, the semi-polluted, and the clean zone. And there are 2 channels. One is for the medical care channels for the nurses to work and to go. And then there is the patient channels, which is contaminated. Can understand as there will be virus, so we need to keep on cleaning. And you for people without infections need to be protected when they enter this region. Of course, housing this amount of patients it is frankly a large hospital, so there will be a lot of waste, including waste from daily use, including medical waste and sewer, etc. So there need to be places for disinfection of all these materials coming out from the site. There are also needing wash basin, shower room, toilet, etc. for patients as well. So this is how it's organized. It's organized into 3 blocks as described about before, A, B, and C. So we have 3 blocks. The deep blue area is the contaminated zone, and the light blue area is the semi-contaminated zone. So basically, the patient zone is in the contaminated zone, and there is a region with a dark background. That's the buffer zone. So the nurses will enter from the semi semi zone through the buffer into the hospital itself, the dirty zone. Zone A is about 8,000 square meters with 614 beds. Zone B is about 4,000 square meters with 419 beds, and C zone also is about 4,000 square meters with about 428 beds. So altogether, there is 1,461 beds. At the maximum time when this square cabin hospital is used, it has 1,434 beds. That means there are some empty beds there waiting for the patients, and that means they achieve the goal of the beds waiting for the patients rather than patients waiting for available beds. The nursing zone is approximately 6,000 square meters, so a total of 22,000 square meters. As I described, the blue arrows indicate the direction where the nurses will enter, and the black arrows indicate the clean material coming in, and the blue arrows indicates contaminations movement, including nurses entering into the zone. So what it look like? It looks like this um, very basic structure with wooden, I suppose, some partitions with beds, and each bed is equipped with a little bedside table. So this is you notice that all the beds look different, and I understand that these beds actually came from the hostels of schools. So they collected all the beds from schools since the school has stopped it. Every student sent home and the hostel is empty. They collected all the beds and used in the hospital. I suppose this is the beds arrived, but not the partitions. So they will still need to put in the partitions. There's another view, and this is near the end of the life cycle of the Square Cabin Hospital. They are preparing to put this particular Square Cabin Hospital into a standby stay. So that is the photo of that one. There's another angle from in the cabin itself. There you see there are some white lines on the floor. That is where the electricity wires are being run. There's yet another views. You notice the beds are not all standardized. As I said, the beds come from different hostels from universities. This is another view and another kind of beds. And this is the partition showing the corridor. On the left side is the patient's cabin, and on the right side is the general area and the nurse stations, etc., etc. So let's look at how lives there. Lives look like that. Every patient's got a bed, a bedside table with power near the on the wall, and some notices. This is one view. Another view is like that. For those on a bunker, they got the opportunity of putting their material on the top level, so they have a bit more storage areas. Here is another view. This patient is having her either lunch, breakfast, or dinner. So you see these are coming in fast food style. They will be served soup, two meat dishes plus a vegetarian dish plus some rice or noodles. And then they also have drinks like orange juice, etc. And they usually will have one or two fruits plus some kinds of milk types of things like yogurt or milk or whatever. Being in the cabin, they have to look after themselves, so including their socks. Of course, as they are living there, people like to take photographs. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, this is not a particular high resolution photographs. And some of them keep on reading. In one instant, 200 people entered into the square cabin at the same time. They poured into the square cabin, and each one have one locker, one small table, one bunk bed, some new beddings on the bed, of course, electric blankets. That is very important because Wuhan at this time is pretty cold. Toiletries and a camouflage cotton clothing, and that is basically from the army. They initially received instant noodles and other food and supplies. Later on, the meals, some square cabin hospitals, the meals were prepared on site by a team of volunteers and cooks, and they have to cook almost 6,000 serves for each shift, morning, lunch, and dinner. So that's quite a large operation. And from what I understand, the total cost for each lunch, dinner, or breakfast is limited to about 25 euro RMB. So that would be about $4 to $5 Australian. And they also will the nutrition will be balanced by a dietitians who will prescribe what kind of food is available and what kind of nutrients the patients need. When they first come in, it was chaos. As shown in the last slide, it was chaos. This is the best summary. And some people do litter, and at that time there's no pattern, no regulations. They don't know what to do. It is a new experience. So seeing all this, some of them hope to get back into order, especially those who serve as police when he isn't a patient. So he see that as an important thing to get the people organized, to get the hospital run as civil as possible. And at the same time, he is a CCP party member. So he think that he should do something for everybody. So he seek the support of the head nurse of the ward and the medical team and try to figure out how many party members are there because the party members have basic training in organization of community work. So they are trying to get as many party members as possible and then start to organize the patients into a community. So in the C room, the C block, uh, there were 4,400 people there, and out of them, 53 were party members. So after obtaining consent from CCP, they formed a local branch, a temporary party branch set up in the area C. And the policeman act as the secretary of the branch, and every members from the CCP are given task. They try to organize the people so that they are unified to fight against the virus, not each other, and try to stabilize a patient's mood and try to encourage patient and staff cooperation and so forth. After the establishment of this temporary party branch, then life becomes more civilized. And for other tasks like sending meals or distributing materials or inspiring patients, etc., is now taken over by the party members and the volunteers. This obviously will provide a lot of help to the medical staff. At the same time, here's another story. There's somebody coming to Wuhan as a tourist, but they came at the wrong time. So before they left, the city is closed. So he was left behind. As he is left behind, he doesn't have anything to do, so he volunteer, and eventually he becomes a pretty famous volunteer. He worked every day for 6 hours, helping patients to clean and so forth. But this is a very interesting observation in China during this closure of Wuhan. We can see a lot of citizens actually volunteer to help. The volunteers not only give their time and energy, they actually support the material. So, for example, some of them runs their cars to transport materials. The petrols are paid by themselves. There's no people paying for the petrols for them, but they volunteer. He is the policeman. Okay, the policeman. This one is from outside. It's not the volunteer. As he come in and provide all kinds of help to the system. Actually, there is a police station which consists of a table and chair and nothing else. Now we see some volunteers working now. The volunteers now distributing, I think, either lunch or dinner. By the way, the square cabin will keep the lights on 24 hours. So one of the initial problem is that people can't sleep with lights on. So eventually they figure out they need the light on because there are so many people here, the staff have to move around. And so they distribute masks, eye masks for them to have a sleep. Now here, the volunteers are lining up to collect the materials and they are looking at their smartphones to know what are they getting and where to distribute the materials. Everything is organized through smartphone here. We see thumbs up from the medical team to the patients and the patients thumb up to the medical team. With all medical team looking like this, the only way you can know who is the name written on the protective clothing. Now this is the tank. The nurse had just get ready to go into the cabin, so they're chilling themselves up. And this is their back. And again, on the back have written their name and words for encouragement and so forth. So these nursing staff, what they do, they take care of the patient's medications, take measurements of their vital signs, understand their physical conditions, and in addition, have to look after their daily livings, provide all the daily necessities. One nurse looks after about 30 to 50 patients, giving them 3 meals a day, daily medications, and replenish their daily needs, like masks and all the other stuff. If the patient needs something from the market, they will organize it to be bought in, and distribute daily fruits, milk, rice, quilts, etc., etc. Okay, and all these are provided by the government for free. At the same time, the district provided an app for the patients, and these patients in the app there are 8,000 videos for them to watch, 80,000 ebooks, and 420,000 audio recordings for them to spend their time. And of course, some will not prefer to always looking at their cell phones. Some would like to have a real paper-based thing to read. And there's also a food corner where there are milk, bread, biscuit, etc. in case somebody is hungry in between meals. As I said, there is a police office. The office is only a table and chair, and a name tag, nothing else, nothing fancy. So here we have a a story about one of the patients recovered from the cabin after 24 days. And by the time they left, he was served by one of those fat white nurse. they, he really want to see what this nurse look like. They don't see their face. They only see the PPE, the personal protective clothing, as well as the eye through the eye mask. On the bed table, there will be phone numbers for you to call the staff for cleaning, for emergency purpose, etc. Running a square cabin hospital like that in China is pretty easy because most Chinese now have a smartphone and they can't live without the smartphone. So everything is organized through the smartphone. And of course, you need living. So there's a little library at the back. By the way, this is a paper-based library. And in the far corner, we see a lot of stickers on the wall. I think that are the encouragements from the patients to the nurse. He is that teacher. He likes to read, so he is staying there reading, and others are selecting what they want to read. Some of them prefer to watch televisions. Another view of watching televisions, and of course, karaoke. Okay, Chinese can spend a lot of time entertaining themselves with a karaoke machine. So a nurse is now helping a patient to select the songs she like to sing. Not only singing, including dancing or hand washing classes. How should you wash class? Here I have a little clip for you to watch some of those dancing class. ，Now the music there is Xinjiang music. So the nurse is actually come from Xinjiang and she is teaching the patients the traditional Xinjiang folk dance. Here we have the line dance. Okay, as I said, there is a reading corner, a television for entertainment, dancing, online classes, everything. It is a small community of patients. And the good thing about them is all these are provided free. Government take care of everything. Well, some patients need to measure their blood sugar, and this is the nurse measuring their blood sugar. The nurse here is taking some details about a patient, interviewing the patients. Okay, let's go back to the tents outside. By the way, this photograph is this one is taken when the cabin hospital is about to put to a standby stay. So the equipments are now gone and they are ready to pack up. So the tanks are empty. If not empty, it will look like this. Quite simple. Basically, table and chair plus some computers, and the doctors are working with the papers and with the information, and they are making all kinds of diagnosis. including using their little mobile to look at the CT scan. And this is the uh, back alley where all the logistics things are coming in and for distribution and so forth. Now, at the moment, this square cabin hospital has been adopted outside of China. I know at least one place. That's Iran. On February 29th, a team of volunteers from the Chinese Red Cross went to Iran and together with all the equipment donated by China. And they also bring the valuable Chinese experience about the square cabin hospital. So in order to cope with the continuous increase of confirmed cases and ability to treat the patients, they are now using the same idea. So at the moment, it is reported that in Tehran, there are 8 temporary hospitals being built at the moment. 3 of them has already been completed and put into use, and the largest one will have about 3,000 beds. So different countries will adopt this idea to suit their own need. Okay, that's it for today, and then I will be back. I don't know whether I will be able to provide one next week because next week is supposed to be the school holiday. It depends on how much material I can gather. So anyway, see you next time.